All right. Hello, citizens of the Nigelverse. It is Nigel here once again, and this is going to be another movie review. So, for the first time in a long time, welcome back, the Man of Steel, Superman. And it's time to review the Superman movie, which I actually saw a couple weeks ago. Oh, and I'm just now getting to it. Hadley, he's sorry it took me a little bit, but we're here and we're ready to review it. If I can just fix my background there. But of course, as always, I'm not a professional movie reviewer or analyst or anything like that. Just a man who enjoys a good time, and I definitely had a pretty good time. I mean, for the most part, with this movie. Now, a couple preliminaries before we get into our review. So, first of all, this movie actually came out about a month ago, and and by the time I went to see it, it was actually the same week that Fantastic Four was coming out. Now, I debated on whether I should just see Fantastic Four, or since it was already there, or if I should see Superman, because I do want to see both, but I decided I would go with Superman, mainly because it's opening weekend. It's usually pretty busy in those theaters. Apparently, for some people, it wasn't that busy though. Well, maybe it's just my theater it wasn't really busy yet. Um, yeah, I decided I would go see Superman. I would go see Fantastic Four in a few weeks. I thought about doing it this week, but the Erie County Fair is coming up, and so I wanted to go instead. But it's also it actually started today. Hey, funnily enough, so today is the 6th, so it actually started today. But nevertheless, I decided I would go see Superman and go see that first, and then go see Fantastic Four at another time. So once we do go and review that, then we'll do our review of that. But the other thing is that this movie has a lot of people split. A lot of people love this movie. A lot of people don't really like it as much. Which, like I said, I enjoyed it for the most part, but there were some concerns, some criticisms that some people had for this movie. And I think it's definitely a case where I can see both sides. But without further ado, let's get right into it. Now, if you've seen these reviews of mine before, you kind of already know how this works. If you haven't, I'm going to be talking about what I liked, disliked about the movie, as well as provide a brief plot summary. So, we actually start off uh, with a bit of exposition. So, this time around, something that this movie does that's pretty interesting is worth mentioning. This is James Gunn now at the helm, and this is part of the kind of reboot for or the DC movie is the DCU, who the DCEU is out, the DCU is in, and they're starting with their first chapter, their first saga in a way, similar to what the MCU who did it, which is Gods and Monsters. But in this new era of Superman, and we ain't got time for the origin story. They explain that Superman's been Superman for a few years now, and that the countries are split up into different names, and so Superman's already a thing. They skip the origin, which I guess makes sense because by now most, if not everybody, knows the origin of Superman. For those of you who don't, pretty much sent from Krypton over to Earth, from his parents and from the dying planet of Krypton, had Earth parents Jonathan and Martha Kent, which we do see in this movie, and Superman pretty much becomes Superman, and but he's also Clark Kent, works at the Daily. I literally almost said the Daily Bugle, but the Daily Planet, which you'll see. But yeah, so he pretty much is Superman, and it starts off with Superman getting flung into the snow after losing his first fight. Right, so it already starts with Superman and taking the L. Interesting way to start, but we'll let him cook. And Crypto is in this movie. Crypto, the super dog, and he at Hearst doesn't obey Superman, and when he asks Crypto to take him back to the Fortress of Solitude, but eventually Crypto obliges, and there Superman is evaluated it 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 brought back to mostly full health, if we're using video game terms for lack of a better term. And so he's brought back to full health with the power of the yellow sun. And after and after he gets his power back and gains a lot of his strength back, he goes right back to fighting the Hammer, which is a product of Luthor Corp. The name LexCorp was right there. Like it's way easier and way quicker to say than Luthor Corp. But Luthor Corp's kind of robot being the Hammer, which we'll find out is not quite the case. But they're essentially they're more of a fighter in a way. He takes out Superman, and who Superman is fighting him, and because Jarhan Hanper, which I'm pretty sure I'm pronouncing these countries incorrectly. He he if I Yeah, I do apologize, but Jarhanpur is being invaded by Boravian President Vasil Gurkos. So Superman's trying to pretty much play peacemaker, or not the John Cena peacemaker, although he does make a cameo in this movie, but pretty much trying to play peacekeeper in a way, and help out the people who are being invaded. Oh, uh, so right in the heart when it comes to that, is he going about it the wrong way, similar to what he did in Superman 4, or kind of parallel I thought about is him doing the wrong thing in a way what can be perceived as the wrong thing for the right reason, but uh, Superman is also unknowingly followed by the engineer, her who is an ally of Lex Luthor, because she's trying to find out where Superman's hideout is, and she pretty much finds it at that being the Fortress of Solitude, which definitely has gotten a visual upgrade compared to the older movies, but. Newer tech, so it makes sense, and of course, as I've mentioned previously, by everything else, Lex Luthor is indeed here, and he kind of plays a similar role to what he does A in the comics, but also B in like the older Superman movies. There's a lot you can tell there's a lot of inspiration from. Obviously, they're telling a new tale and everything, starting this new adventure within the DCU. But you could tell they definitely did draw a lot of inspiration from the old school Richard Donner, Christopher Reeve Superman movies. Which, if you're gonna take from any movie, take from successful ones. But nevertheless, Superman is again and beaten by the Hammer, who turns out is also Kryptonian, or at least a metahuman, that being Ultraman, and not quite the Ultraman in the comics, who's like part of the crime syndicate and is like the full-on evil version of Superman, although he is kind of here, but he's more so pretty much a glorified soldier for Luthor Corp, or I so badly want to call it LexCorp, but it is not LexCorp. But nevertheless, we then cut to, and I'm kind of following how it's laid out on the wiki here, pretty much for reference in case I forget anything, and they do kind of go back and forth and stuff. So, do keep that in mind. But Superman, and we do find not quite Superman, but Clark Kent back at the Daily Planet. We see him interact with like Lois, and Jimmy Olsen's here, Perry White's here as well. And we find out how Lois and Clark slash Superman are dating in this universe here, which they also skipped that part, from the older Superman movies, like where her Lois and Superman eventually have this romance. Nope, it's already here. So kind of interesting how they're skipping a lot of the origin, and when it comes to Superman, whether it be his origin from Krypton, then his relationship with Lois Lane, and they're right to the nitty gritty, yeah, which I do respect it, but Nevertheless, Lois is does do a interview. Superman offers an interview. Who uh at first Lois kind of brings up like how is Clark Kent the only one who gets interviews with Superman, which is obvious how, but Lois then and says has Actually, I would say Superman slash Clark says, "Hey, you want to do an interview?" But Lois tries to be as unbiased as possible and pretty much asks Superman about his actions. And old Soups doesn't take it well. And I mean, and by actions I mean actions in terms of what he's doing, helping out Jarhan Pur and kind of going against Bravia, and Superman doesn't take it too well. It's also worth mentioning this version of Superman is kind of arrogant. He's kind of a jerk a little bit. He's been on the arrogant side. He does. He does have his underwear outside his tights again, which it's kind of a hot take, at least for me. The only way I'm going to tell you guys this hot take is if you promise not to click off the video afterwards. Do you promise? You promise? Okay. Hey, all right. Hot take. I don't like Superman with his underwear on the outside. That nope. You gotta stay. You promised. You promised. Nope. Don't click off. You promised. But yeah, Superman and Batman for that matter. I've never or like hey, obviously when you grew up with that that's how it was. At least I remember that's how it was for a long time up until like the New 52 comics. Excuse me, when those came out, and all of a sudden it's like the New 52 there, the underwear's not on the outside anymore. And I just remember even back then when I was younger being like, that makes sense. And I prefer that look. So that's kind of a personal preference of mine. I know some people did miss it and it reminds them like the older comics. It's great to hate more power to you, to each their own, but I kind of prefer the underwear not being on the outside. But I get it; it was a different time. But anyway, this Superman a bit more on the arrogant side. But afterwards, Lois and Clark slash Superman break up? Question mark. It's implied that they kind of broke up, but we still see Lois and is being by like Superman's side and everything, especially with later events in the movie. So it's kind of a soft breakup of sorts in a way. It's a little weird, um but nevertheless, Lex and the crew do pull up in the Fortress of Solitude. They overpower the robots because Superman does have robots that he has kind of guarding the fortress. They're the ones who also helped him get his power back after he lost to the hammer. But but they pretty much discover the message that was left by Superman's parent and back on Krypton is his actual parents. And now it's worth mentioning, and Superman's only seen the first half of the message. The second half was destroyed when the ship crash landed, so the rest couldn't be decoded because it technically wasn't there. But they managed to find the rest of the message. The engineer slash Angela, which she's never referred to. At least I don't believe so. She's never referred to as the engineer to actually look her up to see who indeed she was. But they find the message, and they are able to decode the whole message of what Jor-El and Laura Van, which I definitely did not read on the wiki there. I just forgot Superman's mom name. I already knew Jor-El, but they managed to decode the rest of the message, and it's a doozy. But we don't have time for that because a monster is attacking before they head off to the fortress. And or I think this happens after they get back from the fortress, and as they're and as they're about to take the message and spread it public, they send a monster, giant monster. It starts off pretty small, but it gets bigger and bigger. Uh, pretty much to occupy Superman, which it does. until the Justice Gang shows up, that being Mr. Terrific, Guy Gardner, and Hawk Girl. Also, the Justice Gang, they're not called Justice League, they're not called even the Justice Society. Yeah, they're just the Justice Gang, which is kind of like a ragtag, I guess, group of hero. Oh, it's kind of similar to, for my wrestling fans, kind of similar to like the conglomeration in AEW, but they help fight off the monster, and Superman wants to keep the monster alive so that it can be studied, but they end up killing it anyway. They ain't got time for that, which I guess makes sense because it's terrorizing the city. But they do cause quite the message. But never mind that, because Luther goes goes public. My goodness, Luther goes public with the full message, and pretty much what Jor-El and Lara Lorvan, aka Superman's parents, I'll just refer to them as Superman's like actual Kryptonian parents. They hey The real message states it's that they want Superman to conquer the Earth and take a pretty much a harem, take several wives and restore the Kryptonian race. So now, pretty much everybody, upon hearing this message, turns on Superman, and they do like a full 180. It goes from "Wow, yeah, you saved us the monster" to "Hey, you want to take a harem? Boo! Boo this guy sucks." Now, I kind of get it, right? Like, hey, and it's very much a take and kind of commentary on like cancel culture nowadays. Is I know I'm not at SummerSlam just yet. We're probably not going to review that for a few days or so, but WWE's kind of going through some similar nowadays. Now that Brock is back, but yeah, kind of a take on like cancel culture. And spoiler, they'll have another commentary on it later on in the movie, but we'll get there when we get there. But Superman pretty much hides from the public, for the time being, and kind of lays low. Superman tries to see if the message was fake, see if Luther faked the message. But Mr. Terrific pretty much confirms that no way. If he took it to several language experts who wouldn't lie about that stuff, that means that message is real, which is yikes. But it's very very bad for Superman. But Superman does end up turning himself in, and so that he doesn't pose a threat to anyone else. He turns himself into the U.S. government, and they hand him over to Lex Luthor, or who puts him in one of these cells he has in his pocket universe that he has. He created a small pocket universe, which is crazy that he can just do that. But Superman is kind of trapped there. Crypto is trapped there as well. Crypto was captured from when Luthor and friends invaded the Fortress of Solitude, but Crypto is captured there, and he's kind of put on like a machine on loop where he's constantly chasing a squirrel because dog. But Superman is then further subdued by Metamorpho, which is crazy that Metamorpho managed to make his way into this movie. But Metamorpho creates kryptonite, which weakens Superman quite a bit. And like almost kills him. And Superman is questioned and everything, and even uh, to the point where Luther brings in someone who's like a friend, a supporter of Superman, named Malik Ali, who we see at towards like the beginning when Superman is fighting the Hammer, and Luther straight up kills him, which makes Metamorpho upset, and really helps push and really helps push, I say, Metamorpho over the edge to ultimately help Superman escape. Because seeing all the rest of these prisoners in there, nah, that's not gonna do it. But seeing someone killed, oh, now you've gone too far. Or which yes, murder is bad, and murdering kind of an innocent person just because they like Superman is pretty crazy, but nevertheless, it kind of convinces Metamorpho to put away the kryptonite and ultimately help Superman, especially because Superman says he wants to help Metamorpho free his son Joey. But he so ultimately he lets him in. I'll probably alternate between Metamorpho and Rex because Metamorpho's real name is Rex Mason, and it's somewhat easier to say. So, oh, uh, Superman pretty much offers to help Rex save his son, which he pretty much does. He manages to free both Joey and Metamorpho with some help from Mister Terrific, because meanwhile Lois goes to the Justice Gang and tries to get them to free Superman and help him out. But the other two, Hawkgirl and Guy Gardner, can't be bothered. And Lois even makes fun of Guy Gardner's haircut, which I knew they were going to do. Seeing Guy Gardner's haircut, which for those who don't really read the comics, yes, yes, that's his actual haircut in the comics. Lois makes fun of the haircut. I knew they had to at some point. And Guy Garner, or with a actually pretty decent clapback, saying 183 women disagree, which hey, props, Guy. But Mr. Terrific does end up helping out Lois. And pretty much discovers the pocket universe, and the pocket universe becomes super unstable and creates a black hole, which Superman has to help. Uh, also has to help contain and everything, and help rescue the others. But ultimately, Mr. Terrific does help him out. Oh, and Crypto does get freed as well, but also goes after one of Mr. Terrific's T balls, also or T spheres, I should say. Yeah, which he does have to help him out and everything. Crypto goes after him, and I imagine that was probably the scene that was cut of Mr. Terrific actually hitting Crypto for that, which they had in like the test audiences, and the test audiences were very horrified by that, so they were like, okay, let's just axe that from the movie, which understandable. But nevertheless, Superman and kind of recoups for a little bit, kind of lays low to recover, but then decides he's going after Luthor, or and he does recoup down in Kansas with Jonathan and Martha, his Earth parents, who pretty much tell him that he's not defined by who his actual parents say he is, the ones who want him to destroy the Earth, take up the harem and everything, but he's defined by his own actions. And they say, you spent your life believing in the first part of that message. It's because you believe in the first part of that message, that's pretty much who you are. You're good. You want to help others and everything. And but ultimately, Superman does take that to heart and kind of realizes that's the Superman that he's supposed to be, not the one that his parents made him, but the one that his parents, in a way, made him. And but meanwhile, Luthor's, I hear it saying girlfriend, but I guess kind of similar to in the original movie, you don't really get the boyfriend girlfriend vibes from Luthor. They do mention it. It's that Luthor and Eve Tessmacher are seeing each other. Yes, they brought back Miss Tessmacher from the original Superman movies, the Christopher Reeve ones, but she helps out Jimmy Olsen, who she is kind of more smitten with, and she kind of has a thing with, and she accidentally threw her selfies because she's kind of because the movie kind of portrays her as kind of like ditzy and kind of like dumb, like kind of dumb blonde and everything, kind of similar to how she was in the original movie, pretty much. But she helps out Jimmy inadvertently because she sees the map and then sees that Luther is aiding Moravia in the invasion of Jarhan Per, or, and she's in prison because of that. But Superman does eventually save her. Or I think she's in prison after Superman recoups. But nevertheless, Superman does go after Luthor, and or and her and Luthor. kind of lure Superman by opening the unstable portal in the Pocket Universe, which he is warned will be catastrophic. Like, but he opens it, and it's supposed to say in half, so it turns out to indeed be catastrophic. But Superman and does help out. He fights. It's but he hides Ultraman and aka the Hammer, or Hawkgirl and Green Lantern do show up to help the invasion of Asian in Jarhan Per when they want Superman there, but Green Lantern and Hawkgirl show up, and Hawkgirl kills Gurko, host the president of Bravia. And, she like drops him out of the sky, which is funny. And Green Lantern showing up and manifesting the different things with his ring, the different hands, the fisted hands, and the middle finger hands was pretty funny. Not gonna lie, and it was also pretty hype. But Superman and Mister Terrific, they fight the engineer and Ultraman. Superman ultimately he defeats the engineer, who tries to stuff his lungs and everything with her with like her nanite thingies. He's then tries to pretty much choke him out, but he overcomes her, fights Ultraman, and pretty much throws him with the help of Crypto into the black hole and Superman and does show up and confront Luthor, and Mr. Terrific shows up as well, and they close the rift and that's when Luthor reveals the evil plan, that at the whole invasion and everything was pretty much a ruse to fight Superman. Now that is some real hater energy. Yeah, now the meme is coming out of like Lex Luthor being hater of the year, but after this, yeah, I'd say that's valid. But Superman pretty much reveals that he's just as human as everyone else. He cries, he makes mistakes, he messes up, but but that makes him human just like everybody else, despite him being a Kryptonian, despite him being an alien. And while he's confronting Luthor, Luthor is exposed by Lois and Jimmy, and the rest of the Daily Planet, who pile into Mr. Terrific's uh ship. If Luthor is exposed, he and the others are arrested. The ones who are trapped in the Pocket Universe, including Eve, they're free. Superman and Lois kiss, they hair back together. Everybody happy. But then. And also, Superman's cousin Kara Zor-El, aka Supergirl, shows up to pick up Crypto, because turns out Superman was just dog sitting for Crypto. Oh, wait till you see he's everything that they got up to. But Kara is drunk, which is kind of funny. But is flying while drunk a crime? Can Superman get drunk? I'm not sure, but Superman pretty much saves the day. Everybody happy. The robots show Superman a different message. They don't play the video of his Kryptonian parents. They instead play it of his Earth parents. So Superman essentially cements his new identity and his or I guess reaffirmed beliefs. But yeah, that is the movie. That is at least the plot summary of the movie. So in terms of what I liked and disliked about the movie, starting with what I liked, it was interesting all the steps that were taken. I mentioned them not really going into Superman's origin, but also kind of working backwards with Superman's identity, having him start off kind of arrogant, kind of a jerk, but being good guy's core to being a fully good guy by learning the truth about his Kryptonian parents, reminding himself of who he truly is, not by what his parents say, uh, but by his ideology and what he believed. He was kind of coming into his own. And I imagine that's probably where a lot of people were split on whether they liked that approach with Superman and or not. But I think it works, and I think it really shows that Superman truly isn't defined by where he came from or what his birth parents say he is, but he is instead defined by himself in a way that kind of applies to us. We may not be Superman, we may not have Superman powers. That would be kind of sick though, especially being able to shave with the laser like he did in the animated series. Uh, but being able to look within ourselves and say, you know what, we might have came from this and we might have done this in our past, but we can improve, and this is who we truly are. Who we truly are is what we believe. So I think that message definitely gets across and we see Superman's arc throughout. Lex Luthor, I think, is very well done. Excuse me. Lex Luthor is very well done. He's played by Nicholas Hoult, who I first remembered as Beast from the X-Men movies, but I think he plays a very fantastic uh very fantastic Lex Luthor. Kind of he kind of has the best of both worlds. He kind of has like he kind of has like a slight bit of the campiness of like the Gene Hackman version of Lex Luthor, but kind of more like the sinister darkness to him of like the Kevin Spacey like the Kevin Spacey Lex Luthor, or like Lex Luthor from the comic. So kind of blending that hat together when it comes to Lex, and seeing his intense hatred for Superman fully on display there was really cool to see. And I think it definitely helped move things along in the movie. And the fact that you really root against him for how excuse me, but excuse me, how you root against him for how much of a jerk he's being, even though some of it is valid. In fact, a lot of it is valid, I would say, especially learning the revelation about Superman's parents. Uh, uh, but he is definitely like a perhaps player hater of the year. Like, he definitely was nuts in this movie, but in all the best ways. And the characters around Superman and were pretty cool as well. It has some of like the darkness of like the Zack Snyder take on Superman and everything, and but thankfully they lighten it up a little bit and it's a lot more like fun and vibrant and colorful. Well, as opposed to the dark dreariness of the Snyderverse. Now, I'm not fully against it. It admittedly has been a while since I've seen Man of Steel, and I remember not hating it, but seeing like the goofy, fun campiness of Superman, and is cool to see once again. And I kind of get why Snyder did that back then, because stuff like the Dark Knight trilogy was so popular, and Arrow was coming out around the same time as well. That was kind of just the era. The superheroes were a bit darker, but it's cool to remember that you can have some fun sometimes as well. And I think this movie kind of has a good blend of that. And seeing the Justice Gang was pretty cool as well. Mr. Terrific hands down steals the show. Like of all like the kind of side like supporting characters, Mr. Terrific is very fun to watch. Like he is definitely he he's as much of a star in this as Superman is. And Lois is not just damsel in distress. Seeing her and her contributions in this movie as well was pretty cool. But Mr. Terrific definitely lives up to his namesake in this movie because he is very fun, very funny, very goofy to watch as well. And Guy Gardner is pretty funny in his own right as well. So seeing them in this movie, they didn't drag, they didn't take away from the movie. If anything, they added to it. So it was really fun to see them in this movie. And seeing Crypto was a nice addition as well in this movie. And seeing him kind of being a naughty was kind of funny. He was pretty cute. But yeah. So a lot of fun to be had in this movie. In terms of what I didn't quite like as much about this movie, for starters, Superman does get his ass kicked quite a bit. And that was another criticism a lot of people had, is that Superman feels kind of weak in this movie, and in some cases yeah, but that's because there's other people to really stand up to him. It's not like he was just losing to average everyday people. The only reason he was losing to Lex Luthor for as long as he was in the movies because Lex Luthor is intelligent. But Superman does get beat up quite a bit in this movie. Does get like messed up and rocked quite a bit in this movie. The other thing is that of the Justice Gang, Hawk Girl kind of feels like an afterthought, which is unfortunate. Admittedly, I've never been a super big Hawkgirl fan. The only really other thing I mainly remember her for is the Justice League cartoon TV show from back in the day. But otherwise, I guess with Mr. Terrific and Guy Gardner getting the main stage, Hawkgirl kind of fades into the background, which is unfortunate. It's for her. I do wish we got a little bit more from her. The other thing is that and this was a criticism some people had. The movie does some feel that the movie's overstuffed, at least according to the wiki, and in my opinion, it kind of is. For the first movie unless you count like the Suicide Squad, which was also James Gunn, if I'm not mistaken. But I think this is the official beginning of the DCU. But for the first movie in like this new franchise and everything, or this new direction in this new chapter for the DCU, they do throw a lot at you. They throw like pocket universes and all these heroes and Metamorpho, who does join the Justice Gang. But they throw in Metamorpho, and it's funny how he was inducted just because he agreed with Guy Gardner. But they throw that at you. They throw Lex Luthor at you. Who they do throw quite a bit your way, and that admittedly was kind of a problem that they had in the DCEU, was that they tried to work backwards by throwing everything at you at once. Here's Batman, here's Wonder Woman, here's Superman, here's Zod, here's Lex Luthor, now he's bald, here's the Justice League, and then try to work backwards and then try to give everything solo stuff, and not even everyone got solo stuff, but they did oversaturate. Thankfully, this movie doesn't do that as much. They kind of know when to pull back, but it does feel like a little too much, a little too soon. But otherwise, still a pretty fun movie. I definitely still enjoyed it. I know it's not everybody's cup of tea, but I personally did enjoy it. But excuse me, nevertheless, that's going to do it for this review. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please do me a favor. Oh my goodness, excuse me. Like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends, and turn on those post notifications so you know every time I upload a video so you never miss an upload. And let me know in the comment section below, what are your thoughts on the Superman movie? Do you like the movie? Do you like I review this movie? Let me know. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you guys later. Peace.